The morning light was a dull ache behind my eyes. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, every muscle screaming in protest. My first instinct was to roll over and fall back into the sweet oblivion of sleep, but as I shifted, my right hand brushed against something impossible. The skin was smooth, delicate. I let my fingers graze across it, my half-asleep brain registering only the texture. I gave a little squeeze. In response, a soft, sleepy murmur reached my ear. MMPH. My eyes snapped open. I whipped my head to the side, and my heart stopped. Lying next to me, tangled in my sheets, was Dr. Evelyn Reed, the undisputed legend of the political science department. Dr. Reed wasn't just a professor. She was an institution. She had a face that could have been carved by a Renaissance master. Deep, intelligent eyes, a perfectly straight nose, and a mouth that, even in sleep, held a hint of a smile. A cascade of dark hair fell across the pillow. Her figure was just as intimidating, a dancer's posture and an effortless grace that radiated a kind of fierce, intellectual beauty. Other professors' lectures were seas of empty seats. The front rows a desolate wasteland. But for Dr. Reed's classes, you had to show up half an hour early just to get a seat within the first 10 rows. The same guys who slept through every other class were suddenly front and center, bright-eyed, and taking meticulous notes. It was the last week of senior year. My friends and I had gathered at a dive bar, just off campus for one final goodbye. As the night wore on and the drinks kept flowing, the bar filled with the sounds of our class letting go. Off-key singing, heartfelt toasts, and the quiet sobbing of friends who knew this was the end of an era. I always thought I could hold my liquor, but by midnight, the room was spinning. I bailed on the party, stumbling out into the cool night air to make the trek back to my apartment. The gentle breeze did little to clear my head. As I shuffled down the dimly lit campus path, a woman in a white dress staggered past me, heading in the same direction. She was just as unsteady as I was. I was in no shape to play the hero, but as she drew level with me, she turned her head, her eyes locking on mine for a split second before her legs gave out and she pitched directly towards me. "Whoa, hey, is this a setup?" I yelped, jumping back. She missed me completely and crumpled to the pavement. "Nice try," I muttered, feeling a flicker of smug satisfaction. Not falling for that. I started to walk away, but after a few steps, a wave of guilt washed over me. I glanced back. She hadn't moved. She was just lying there, face down on the concrete. With a heavy sigh, I turned back. I knelt and gently rolled her over. My first thought was that she was beautiful with a really nice figure. But when I lifted her into my arms and her face came into the light of a nearby lamppost, my breath caught in my throat. It was my professor, Dr. Reed. Her hair was a mess. Her perfect face was flushed, and her eyes were hazy and unfocused. For a moment, I was completely mesmerized, the alcohol in my system amplifying the surreal beauty of the moment. I had to physically shake my head to clear it. "Dr. Reed," I said, my voice urgent. "Professor Reed, wake up." Her only response was a series of soft, incoherent mumbles. I looked around. The path was deserted. I couldn't just leave her here. With a grunt, I hoisted her onto my back and started walking again. Thankfully, as one of her most devoted, albeit silent, admirers, I knew she lived in the faculty apartments just north of campus. The moment her body settled against my back, I could feel the soft curves of her figure even through her clothes. Her warm breath ghosted against my ear, a faint scent of perfume mixing with the smell of whiskey, sending a jolt through my system. The alcohol buzz faded, replaced by a surge of adrenaline. I felt like I could run a marathon. As we walked, she kept muttering something under her breath. "That bastard. He's sorry now." I couldn't make out the whole thing, and I sure as hell wasn't going to ask. Soon enough, we were standing in front of her apartment building. The front door was locked, and after banging on the security call button for a full minute with no answer, I gave up. I looked at the winding emergency staircase, then at the sleeping professor on my back, and started climbing. I couldn't help but think that her killer figure wasn't just for show. It had some serious weight to it. By the time I reached her floor, I was gasping for air. I slumped against her apartment door, gently setting her down against the wall. "Dr. Reed, wake up." I panted, shaking her shoulder. We're at your door. I called her name several more times, but she was out cold. I looked at her beautiful, peaceful face and felt a wave of pure exhaustion. All I wanted was to get her inside and leave. In a moment of drunken, desperate genius, or so I thought, I raised my hand and gave her a firm swat on the backside. Ah! She yelped, her eyes flying open. Seizing the moment, I launched into the fastest possible explanation of the situation. She stared at me, dazed, before starting to rummage through her handbag. After a frantic search, she produced a key. She staggered to her feet and tried to unlock the door, but her hand was shaking too much to fit the key in the lock. Sighing, I took the key from her, opened the door, and helped her inside. My plan was to deposit her on the bed and make a clean getaway. But I was completely spent. As I leaned over to put her on the bed, she threw her arms around my neck, pulling me down with her. I tried to get up, but her grip was surprisingly strong. "You think you can just assault me and leave?" she murmured, her eyes now open and fixed on mine. My heart hammered in my chest. Before I could react, her lips were on mine. The softness, the warmth, my brain went completely blank. Her sudden passion ignited something in my own alcohol-fueled body. The rest of the night unfolded like a fever dream. The last shred of my reason evaporated. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, stabbing at my eyes. When I finally woke up and saw Dr. Reed lying beside me, I shot upright, my mind scrambling to piece together the fragments of the night before. Just then, she began to stir. Her eyes fluttered open, hazy with sleep, then sharpened with sudden, startling clarity. Panic flickered across her face before being replaced by a mask of cool composure. "Had your fill?" she asked, her voice as cold as ice. "If you're done staring, turn around." I scrambled to obey, accidentally yanking the comforter with me. For one breathtaking, unforgettable second, her entire, perfect body was visible. It was a fleeting image, but one that would be seared into my memory for the rest of my life. I heard a sharp intake of breath, followed by the rustling sound of clothes being hastily put on. When the sound stopped, I chanced to glance over my shoulder. I saw her back, and a faint, red palm print just visible above the waistband of her jeans. My handiwork. "Still looking? You've got a lot of nerve." No. I spun back around, my face burning. "Last night never happened," she said, her back still to me. "You can go." The morning light filtered through her hair, making it look like a halo. I couldn't help but notice she'd missed 2 buttons on her blouse. I took a deep breath. "Dr. Reed, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. We were both really drunk." "Don't explain." She cut me off, her voice flat. "And I don't need you to be responsible. We're both adults." "But I want to be," I said, the words coming out with more sincerity than I expected. "I'll take responsibility." "You want to be responsible?" She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Fine. One phone call to the dean's office about this, and your academic career will be over. And mine along with it. Is it the kind of responsibility you had in mind?" "That's not what I meant. Last night, I tried again, but she cut me off." "No one cares about your intentions these days, Liam. Just go. From now on, we're professor and student. Nothing more." Her tone was absolute. But as I turned to leave, my eyes caught a small, dark red stain on the white bedsheets. I was almost out the door when she called after me. "And if I hear that you've told a single soul about this, you'll find out just how bad the consequences can be." I didn't answer. I just ran. That afternoon, the bell rang and Dr. Reed walked into the lecture hall with her usual confident stride. She was the center of the universe, every word and gesture commanding the rapt attention of the room. It was as if last night had never happened, as if it hadn't affected her at all. The only difference was the empty seat in the front row, where a young man who used to chase his dreams now sat in the back, trying to be invisible. Her gaze swept across the classroom, as if searching for someone. When our eyes met for a fraction of a second, she looked away first. Soon after, graduation came and went. I never saw Dr. Reed again. 03. Reunion 2 months after graduation, I was deep in the grind of rejection letters and dead-end job applications. To make rent, I started driving for Uber. It was a typical Tuesday night. I was parked downtown, scrolling through my phone while waiting for a ride request. Suddenly, a priority notification flashed on my screen. The notes read, "Pregnant. Need to get to OB/GYN at Lakeside General." Urgent. A sense of duty kicked in. I immediately accepted the ride and sped toward the pickup address. When I arrived, I saw a tall, slender woman leaning against the car, one hand resting on her stomach. The silhouette was so familiar, but her belly was gently rounded. She was clearly several months pregnant. Dr. Reed, what a coincidence. I didn't know you lived around here. She turned, her eyes widening in disbelief. Liam, what are you doing here? Is this you? I asked awkwardly, holding up my phone with the Uber request on the screen. She shot me a glare. I'm canceling the ride. You can go. She turned and started walking back toward her apartment building. But she didn't get more than 2 steps before she cried out, clutching her stomach and sinking to the ground. Her face was pale, and beads of sweat dotted her forehead. Forgetting everything else, I rushed to her side, snatched the car keys from her hand, and scooped her into my arms. I saw her lips tremble as if she was trying to say something. Dr. Reed, whatever is going on, we need to get you to the hospital, I said quickly. The past is the past. Is it? She murmured, a flicker of disappointment in her eyes that I was too frantic to notice. On the way to the hospital, I floored it, the sound of her pained groans from the back seat urging me on. At the hospital, I stayed with her through a battery of tests, enduring a lecture from a nurse. How could you be so careless? She chided. When she's this far along, you have to be more attentive. You're the husband, for crying out loud. I just nodded and offered a weak, embarrassed smile. By the time all the tests were done and I had the results, dawn was breaking. I went back to her room and found her asleep. I sat beside her bed, quietly looking over the chart. When my eyes landed on the estimated date of conception, I froze. I started counting back the days on my fingers, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The timing was almost perfect. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind as I watched her sleep. I checked the time, then slipped out of the room and bought some breakfast from the hospital cafeteria. But when I got back, I found myself pacing in the hallway, unable to bring myself to go inside. Suddenly, I heard a crash from inside the room. I burst in. Dr. Reed, are you awake? I brought you some breakfast. Here, let me help you sit up. Last night. Thank you, she said, her voice formal. Here, you should eat. Thank you, she repeated. I sat down on the edge of a chair, feeling like I was sitting on a bed of nails. Finally, I just blurted it out. Dr. Reed, is the baby mine? She had just taken a sip of soup and choked, coughing violently. I jumped up and handed her a cup of water. When she finally caught her breath, she shook her head. The baby has nothing to do with you, Liam. Don't overthink it. But the due date, it lines up almost exactly with that night. My body is particular, she said vaguely. It was just one time. It's not that easy to get pregnant. I think it was more than once, I muttered, scratching my head. I remember feeling half dead when I finally got back to my apartment. Stop, 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 she said, her cheeks flushing. Don't say another word. I'm married, okay? The baby is my husband's. Oh, okay. Hearing that, a knot of tension I didn't even know I was holding unwound in my gut. But it was followed by a strange, hollow feeling of disappointment. Now stop asking questions, she continued. You should go home and get some rest. You've been up all night. It's okay, Dr. Reed. I'm not tired. I can stay with you. I don't think you should be alone. You don't need to. My family will be here soon. You can go. With that, she turned her back to me. Taking the hint, I placed her chart on the bedside table and left. 04. The truth, as I walked out of the hospital, I smacked myself on the forehead. Damn it. My scooter is still at her apartment complex. I hope it hasn't been towed. I hailed a cab and gave the driver the address from the Uber request. It was a high-end condo building in a beautiful, manicured neighborhood. As I got out of the cab, the security guard at the front desk, an older man with a friendly face, came over to me. Hey, you're back. How's Dr. Reed doing? He asked warmly. I was a bit taken aback by his concern. I'm just here to get my scooter, I said. Oh, it's over there, he said, pointing. So is she okay? I looked at him, a little suspicious. Why are you so concerned about her? The guard, Frank, chuckled. Don't get the wrong idea, son. Dr. Reed tutored my boy a few years back, helped him get into a great college. We'll always be grateful to her. My suspicion melted away. Oh, I see. I was one of her students, too. Just graduated. I was driving for Uber and got a ride request. Small world. She's doing fine, I added with a smile. Don't worry. Glad to hear it. It must be tough for her, being pregnant and all alone. My brow furrowed. Alone, but I thought she was married. Frank looked confused. Married? I don't think so. Dr. Reed's lived here for years, always by herself. I tell you what, she's pretty far along now, and I've never seen anyone come by to help her out. If I ever find a guy who knocked her up and ran, I swear I'll... Well, you get the picture. His words sent a shiver down my spine. I jumped on my scooter and raced back to the hospital, stopping only to buy a bouquet of flowers and a basket of fruit. But when I got to her room, it was empty. The nurse told me she had already checked herself out. So I turned around and went right back to her building. I found Frank at his post. Hey, Frank, did Dr. Reed come home already? Sure did. Not long after you left. Which apartment is hers? I asked, my voice tight with urgency. Whoa there, what's going on? This time, it was his turn to be suspicious. I tried to calm myself down. She left some of her papers at the hospital in her rush to leave. I brought them back for her, and I got her some fruit. I held up the basket as evidence. Well, I can give her a call and have her come down. As he reached for the phone, I stopped him. No, don't. She just got back from the hospital, and she's pregnant. The last thing she needs is to be walking up and down. I could just take it up to her. Frank studied my face for a moment, then nodded. You're a thoughtful kid. She's in 8B, apartment 302. You take good care of her, you hear? I stood outside her door, took a deep breath, and knocked. The door opened. Liam, what are you doing here? She asked, looking surprised. Are you here for the money? I still owe you for the hospital bill and the Uber ride. No, that's not it, Dr. Reed. Here, these are for you, I said, handing her the fruit. Can I come in? I need to ask you something. It's not a good time, she said, blocking the doorway. But I wasn't taking no for an answer. I squeezed past her and into the living room. She closed the door with a sigh and followed me in. The second she was inside, I spun around and cornered her against the wall. Professor, I said, my voice shaking with emotion, you have to tell me the truth today. I'm not leaving until you do. She was clearly frightened by my sudden aggression. Her face flushed, and her eyes flashed with anger and fear. Let go of me. What are you doing? This is completely inappropriate. I stared into her eyes, my voice rising. You're not married. You don't have a husband. Why did you lie to me? Is this baby mine or not? Because if it is, I will take care of him. I will be a father. She didn't speak, her eyes a swirling mix of emotions, as if she was weighing 100 different options. If you don't tell me, then don't blame me for this, I said, and leaned in to kiss her. Her eyes went wide. A fraction of a second later, a sharp pain erupted in my mouth, followed by a blinding flash of light as my head snapped to the side. The side of my face was on fire. When my vision cleared, she was sitting on the sofa, looking at me calmly. Feel better now? She asked. I'm sorry, Dr. Reed. I apologized immediately. I was out of line, but I need to know the truth. Please. Fine, she said, her voice weary. If this baby was yours, what would you do? I'd do what a father is supposed to do, I said instantly. I'd raise him. I'd provide for him. A sad smile touched her lips, cutting off my fantasy. You don't even have a full-time job, Liam. You can barely support yourself. How are you going to support a child? Her words hit me like a ton of bricks, pulling me back to grim reality. Life isn't some fantasy you've cooked up in your head, she continued. It's rent, it's groceries, it's health insurance. You don't have a house, or a car, or any savings. Without a financial foundation, everything else is just talk. I wanted to say I would work hard, that I would dedicate my life to providing for them. But before I could get the words out, she spoke again. Whether this child is yours or not, I'm going to raise him myself. I'm not getting married, and I don't want you to bother me anymore. Go live your own life. I saw the finality in her eyes and felt a sharp pain in my chest. I knew she was right. I had no argument. I could only ask one last question. Dr. Reed, why did you decide to keep the baby? You said we should just pretend that night never happened. She seemed surprised by the question. Don't get any ideas, she said quickly. This has nothing to do with you. You saw my chart. You know my medical history. It's not easy for me to get pregnant. I wasn't going to give up my only chance to be a mother. Now, please go, she said, her voice softening slightly. Don't come back. I'll be fine on my own. For the second time, she kicked me out. I didn't know what to do or where to go. All I wanted was to go home, crawl into bed, and not think about anything at all. 05. The shift, I walked out of her apartment like a zombie. As I left the building, I ran into Frank again. He took one look at my face and grinned. "She shut you down, huh, kid?" No. You don't look no. You look like your dog just died. Come on, you're sweet on her, right? I saw the flowers you bought. Red roses. Classic. No, I repeated, trying to walk past him. "Don't be so down," he said, grabbing my arm. "Look, I may just be a security guard now, but back in the day, I married the prettiest girl in my town. You want a few pointers?" I just stared at him, speechless. He seemed to take my silence as a challenge. "You don't believe me? See that beautiful woman over there, having coffee with her friends? That's my wife." I followed his gaze and saw a stunningly elegant woman who looked at least 20 years younger than him. "That's your wife? Seriously?" Frank puffed out his chest. "Don't ask how. The point is, you want my help or not? I can't guarantee it'll work, but I can at least help you get on her good side." He leaned in and whispered a few words of advice in my ear. When he was done, I looked at him with newfound respect. I thanked him profusely and told him I'd be back in the morning. As I walked away, I heard a yelp from behind me. I turned to see Frank's wife twisting his ear, scolding him for something. He saw me looking and gave me a pained, cheerful wave. The next morning, I was back at Dr. Reed's building bright and early, knocking on her door. The moment she saw me, her face clouded over with annoyance. "You again. Are you ever going to give up?" Before she could say more, I slipped past her, holding a grocery bag overflowing with fresh produce. "What do you think you're doing?" "Making sure you get some proper nutrition," I said, heading straight for the kitchen. "I checked out your kitchen yesterday. It's way too clean, which means you order takeout every night. I may not be able to buy you a car or a house, but I can damn well cook for you. From now on, I'm your personal chef." I immediately started making a racket, washing and chopping vegetables. After a moment, I heard her bedroom door click shut. She was too tired to argue. A little while later, a healthy, balanced breakfast was sitting on her dining table. "Breakfast is ready." I called out softly. "Just leave it there," she called back, her voice muffled. "And don't bother me. I'll get it later." That was fine by me. I went back to the kitchen, cooked, and packed up a lunch and a dinner, labeled them with reheating instructions, and placed them in her fridge. I also took the liberty of throwing out a bunch of expensive-looking but long-expired food. I tidied up, took out the trash, and left without another word. A little while after I left, Evelyn emerged from her bedroom. She glanced at the breakfast on the table, a perfect, nutritious spread, but ignored it, having no appetite. She went to the fridge to get the half-empty carton of milk that usually served as her breakfast. When she opened the door, she didn't know whether to be angry or grateful. Everything else was gone. The only things left were a few pieces of fruit and the 2 neatly packed meals I had made, one for lunch and one for dinner, with a thoughtful note on how to heat them up. With a sigh, she went back to the table and started eating the breakfast I'd made. Later that day, she took the lunch with her to work. The next day, I was back at the same time. This time, there was less hostility in her eyes. She still went back to her room without a word, but when I saw the empty containers from yesterday in the sink and the empty space in the fridge, I felt a surge of triumphant joy. This became our routine. Every morning, I would show up, cook 3 creative and healthy meals for her, and then leave, never overstaying my welcome or trying to force a conversation. This went on for a month. Then, one morning, I arrived as usual and found her door unlocked. My heart leaped into my throat. I dropped the groceries and burst inside, yelling her name. I found her sitting on the sofa in her pajamas, looking at me with a bewildered expression. "What is it? What's wrong?" I caught my breath, embarrassed. "Nothing." The door was open. "I thought something might have happened." "I left it open for you," she said calmly. "You were 10 minutes late today." I glanced at my phone, about to make an excuse. But then she held out a key. "This is the spare from my apartment. It's the only one I have, so don't lose it. And stop knocking in the mornings. You wake me up, and you're bothering the neighbors." Then she turned and went back to her room. I stood there, clutching the key in my hand, my heart pounding like a drum. I knew that my persistence, my shameless refusal to give up, had finally paid off. It was a small change, but it felt like everything. 06. The complication, but our quiet routine, was short-lived. A storm was coming. Her ex-boyfriend, Alex Vance, returned from an overseas post. He came back successful, confident, and proud, and the first thing he did was visit her parents. They were overjoyed to see him. They had always thought he and Evelyn were a perfect match, a power couple in the making, and had been devastated when their different career paths led to a breakup. After learning where Evelyn lived, he showed up at her door the very next morning. I was in the kitchen, prepping lunch and cleaning up when the doorbell rang. Evelyn opened the door and her face fell. "Alex, what are you doing here?" He smiled. "I'm back." Surprise. Then his eyes fell to her stomach, and the smile vanished from his face. Shock and confusion replaced it. "I checked," he said, his voice rising. "They said you weren't married, that you weren't even dating anyone. How are you pregnant?" "It was an accident," she said evenly. But Alex was growing agitated. He stepped forward and grabbed her by the shoulders. "An accident? What kind of accident?" "You owe me an explanation." Evelyn flinched, trying to pull away. "An explanation? I don't owe you anything." "You cheated on me," he sneered. "Cheated?" She shot back, her voice rising to match his. "You broke up with me when you took that job in London. We haven't been together in years." Hearing the shouting, I came out of the kitchen. Seeing him gripping her shoulders, I immediately moved between them, pushing him back. "Who the hell are you?" I asked, keeping my voice level, but my eyes were blazing. Seeing me only made Alex angrier. "I could ask you the same thing," he snarled. I took a deep breath. "I'm a former student of Dr. Reed's. I'm helping her out." Alex laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "Helping her out? Or are you the father of that baby in her belly?" His words were a knife to the gut. I wanted to scream yes, but the word got stuck in my throat. Just then, Evelyn stepped out from behind me, linked her arm through mine, and smiled sweetly at Alex. "Yes," she said, "he is." Her words filled me with a sudden, fierce confidence. "That's right," I said, standing taller. "Evelyn is with me now. I don't care what you were to her before, but right now, I need you to leave." Losing control completely, Alex swung his hand and slapped Evelyn across the face. "You shameless bitch," he roared. "Sleeping with one of your students. I'll ruin you. I'll make sure you never work in this city again." A white-hot rage exploded inside me. I kicked him hard, sending him stumbling out the door. I was about to go after him when Evelyn cried out from behind me. "Liam, the baby." My stomach. It hurts so much. I spun around. Her face was chalk white and covered in a cold sweat. Panic seized me. I scooped her into my arms and, ignoring the elevator, bolted for the stairs. Alex, recovering from my kick, ran after us. "My car's downstairs. Get in quick." In the car, Evelyn's condition worsened. She was trembling uncontrollably, and blood was soaking through her dress. Her eyes rolled back in her head as she lost consciousness. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice, choked with fear and self-loathing. At the hospital, she was rushed into an emergency room. Alex and I sat in the sterile hallway, waiting in agonizing silence. Finally, the door swung open and a nurse rushed out. "The fetus isn't viable," she said urgently. "We need to perform an emergency D and C. Which one of you is next of kin? I need a signature." Alex snatched the clipboard from her, but he just stared at the consent form, his hand frozen. I shoved him aside, grabbed the pen, signed my name, and handed it back to the nurse. The anger I had been suppressing all morning finally boiled over. I grabbed Alex by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "I don't care who you are or what you were to her," I snarled, my voice low and dangerous. "I want you to get out of here. Now, get the hell out of my sight." I punctuated the sentence with a hard punch to his gut. He doubled over, but then he started to laugh, a wild, unhinged sound. "It's over now," he gasped, pushing me away. "The baby's gone. Your only connection to her is gone. You have nothing. Evelyn will be mine." He straightened his shirt, smiled, and walked away. After what felt like an eternity, the emergency room doors opened again. The doctor came out, his face grim. "The patient is stable, but I'm afraid we lost the pregnancy," he said gently. "Given her pre-existing medical conditions, this trauma means it's highly unlikely she'll be able to conceive again." Evelyn remained unconscious for a long time. When she finally woke up and learned the baby was gone, her eyes became hollow and empty. She cried silently, refusing to speak. All I could do was sit by her bed, holding her hand, trying to offer what little comfort I could. For the next few days, Alex would show up with extravagant gifts, exotic foods, and expensive supplements. Evelyn never acknowledged him, but she never told him to leave either, so I couldn't throw him out. On the fifth day, Alex arrived looking impossibly handsome, holding an enormous bouquet of roses. I was about to tell him to get lost when Evelyn spoke for the first time in days. She asked me to leave them alone. I turned and walked out of the room, my heart a leaden weight in my chest. I sat on a bench in the hallway for what felt like hours. Finally, seeing that it was nearly lunchtime, I left the hospital. The afternoon sun was blinding. I walked aimlessly, my mind filled with images of Evelyn and Alex together, a profound sense of despair washing over me. When I returned to the hospital with her lunch, Alex was gone. I continued to care for her, and she didn't refuse me. Alex never came back. Days turned into weeks, and Evelyn's body slowly began to heal. On the day she was discharged, I was there early to handle the paperwork. We walked out of the hospital together. The sun was shining, but I felt no warmth. The silence between us on the drive home was thick and heavy with unspoken words. When we got to her apartment, I stopped at the door. She turned, a question in her eyes. "What is it?" "Dr. Reed, the baby's gone now," I said, unable to meet her gaze. "I couldn't protect you. I don't have any right to be here anymore." "Were you only here for the baby, Liam?" she asked softly. "Of course not." I burst out. "I've had a crush on you since I was a sophomore. After all this time we've spent together, how could I not have feelings for you? But I'm not good enough for you." "Not anymore." "Do you love me?" she asked, taking a step closer. "Yes," I said without hesitation. "I love you. I'd do anything for you." She didn't say a word. Instead, she grabbed my arm, pulled me inside, and slammed the door behind us, pinning me against it. I was so stunned I couldn't move. Before I could process what was happening, her lips were on mine, firm and demanding. When she finally pulled away, she looked me straight in the eye. "Whether or not you're good enough for me is my decision to make. And right now," she said, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips, "I'd say we're even." She then turned, humming a little tune, and disappeared in her bedroom. I stood frozen in place, the warmth of her lips still lingering on mine, my heart thundering in my chest. A moment later, her head peeked out from the bedroom doorway, her cheeks flushed. "Well, silly, what are you waiting for?" From that day on, we built a life together. We cooked together, cleaned the apartment together, watched movies on the couch together. We fell into a messy, beautiful rhythm. Our love grew stronger every day, and after overcoming more obstacles than I could count, we finally found our way. I invited my entire graduating class to our wedding. My best friends couldn't believe it, loudly proclaiming that a rose had been planted in a pile of cow dung. I could see the envy in the eyes of every guy from our graduating class. The path to love had been confusing and painful, but in the end, we found where we belonged. I promised myself I would cherish this improbable, hard-won love and spend the rest of my life with my professor. And strangely enough, a year after we were married, Evelyn got pregnant again. All I can say is I must have some kind of magic touch. Apparently, I specialize in curing infertility.